The harmattan wind blew dust into every crack and corner of Okoto village, coating the cassava leaves in a thin, rusty film. But inside the wide compound of Chief Obololu Adeyemi, not a grain of dust dared linger. His servants swept thrice a day. His walls were painted freshly every 2 months. His yam barns stretched so far behind his mansion that strangers thought it was a marketplace. Yet, Chief Obololu was not satisfied. They said he could buy any plot of land in Okoto, and he did. They said his wives were gold from Ghana and fabrics from Senegal, and they did. They said he could host a feast for the whole village for 7 days straight, and he had done it twice. But still, when he looked into his brass mirror each morning, he only saw one thing missing: more. One morning, he summoned his most trusted aide, Balogun. Balogun, word has reached me of a hidden gold stream beyond the old forest road. Chief Obololu spoke. They say the water runs over stones so yellow they blind the eyes. I must have it. Baba, those are the lands of the ebb spirits, Balogun replied. The hunters say no man returns from there with his shadow intact. Chief Obololu continued speaking. Waves, hand dismissively, spirits. My father did not die a coward, and I will not live like one. Send word to the diggers. We leave at dawn. The following day, the chief's entourage marched through the market square, 20 men with shovels, 10 with baskets, and 4 guards carrying long Dane guns. The people stared, some in awe, others in pity. They reached the forest edge by midday. The trees here were so tall that the sky seemed like a small patch above. The air smelled damp, like the breath of something sleeping. Balogun's hands trembled, but the chief's eyes shone with hunger. After hours of trekking, they heard it, a river soft murmur. When they found it, the sight was enough to make even Balogun gasp. Sunlight spilled on the water, revealing smooth, bright yellow stones beneath. Obololu knelt and scooped one. It was warm, as if alive. Chief Obololu said, This is mine. They began digging, piling the golden stones in baskets. But each stone they touched seemed to draw the forest closer. Vines drooped lower, shadows thickened, and an odd hum began in the distance. That night, around their fire, Balogun could not sleep. The forest was too quiet, no crickets, no owls. Then, from the darkness, a voice spoke, low and deep. Voice, take what you need, but not more. Balogun jolted awake, sweat on his brow. The chief laughed when told. Who will tell me what I need? Chief Obololu asked rhetorically. My need has no end. By the end of the 3rd day, they had filled every basket, and still Obololu ordered them to dig. They began to see shapes in the trees, tall, shadowed figures watching. Balogun pleaded for them to leave, but the chief would not hear it. On the 5th night, the hum became a roar. The river began to swell, golden stones tumbling in the current. Then, with a crack like thunder, the bank gave way. Water rushed in, swallowing the men. In the chaos, Obololu clutched a bag of stones to his chest, shouting, It's mine. All mine. Chief Obololu exclaimed. The water pulled him under. When the flood calmed, only Balogun and 2 diggers remained empty-handed. They turned to leave, but found the path back gone. The forest had closed in. 3 weeks passed before anyone saw Balogun again. He stumbled into Okoto at dusk, thin as a broomstick, his wrapper hanging off one shoulder, eyes sunk deep like wells that had run dry. He carried nothing, no gold, no basket, not even a walking stick. Only the dust on his feet and the tremor in his voice. The village gathered around him in the market square, their voices like buzzing bees. Children peered from behind their mothers' wrappers. Even the goat stood still. Balagan, where is the chief? Elder Ifani asked. Shaking his head, the forest kept him. Balagan responded. What of the others? The old Mama Adoni asked. Voice breaking, the river rose, the shadows closed in. I alone, Balagan replied. He fell to his knees, weeping, and the elders carried him away. For days, he refused to speak more. Without Chief Obololu, the village was adrift. His wives wept behind closed doors. His yambans long, rectangular structures with roofs of woven palm sat locked and silent. Goats wandered the edges of his compound, bleating for food. Cassava lay unharvested in his distant farms. The elders met in the council hut, the air thick with the smell of palm oil and tension. They argued over who would lead until the chief's fate was certain. Some feared calling for a new leader too quickly; the spirits might see it as disrespect. Others worried the village would starve before decisions were made. Into this confusion stepped Okachukwu the trader. A shrewd man with quick eyes and quicker hands, Okachukwu had long envied Chief Obololu's wealth. He had once been a small trader of palm kernels and dried fish, but the chief's feast and endless lands had always been beyond his reach. Now, he saw a gap and an opportunity. One evening, he approached the elders as they sat drinking palm wine. Fathers of Okota, I have been thinking. The chief's barns are full, yet the village's stomachs are empty. Let me manage his goods until his family decides. I will keep the people fed, and in return, I will take only a fair share for my work. Okachukwu suggested. The elders murmured among themselves. His offer sounded reasonable. Better to have someone distribute the goods than watch them rot. And so, Okachukwu was given the keys to the barns. At first, he kept his word. Every morning, he stood at the barn doors, weighing out yam tubers for each household. He sold a few goats to buy oil for the poor. Mothers blessed him in the square. Children followed him, calling him Okachukwu the provider. But greed is a seed that grows quietly. Within months, small changes appeared. He built a bigger stall in the market, one that gleamed with imported goods, color from the north, salt from the coast. His wives began wearing brighter, costlier wrappers. The goats he sold now fetched higher prices, yet the villagers saw less and less from the sales. When people began to ask questions, Okachukwu's voice grew sharper. Do you think feeding the village is free? Do you know the sweat it costs to keep the barns from thieves? Okechu. Soon, the barns were nearly empty, yet his personal store overflowed. Yams stacked to the ceiling. Goats bleating in pens behind his stall. One night, a young widow named Ngozi came to beg for cassava for her children. Okachukwu looked her up and down, then shook his head. There is nothing for you here, Okachukwu said. But I see the yams. Then perhaps you should see less, Okachukwu added. He slammed the door in her face. Word of his cruelty spread. The blessings once whispered in his name turned to curses spat in the dust. The storm came on the seventh night of the planting season. The sky blackened before sunset. The wind rose like 1,000 whips cracking. Thunder rattled the thatch on every roof. In the market square, lightning struck the very heart of Okachukwu's new store, splitting the roof like a calabash. Flames leapt high, whipped by the wind. The people ran with calabashes and gourds of water, but the heat drove them back. And in the flashes of lightning, some swore they saw tall, shadowed figures standing just beyond the firelight, silent, watching. When the fire finally died at dawn, nothing remained but blackened ash and the smell of burnt goods. Okochukwu was gone. Some said he fled in the night, shamed by the loss. Others swore they saw the figures follow him into the storm, their shapes melting into the dark. The elders gathered the village and made a declaration. The land of the earth spirits is cursed. Let no man seek its gold, nor touch what the forest has claimed. For years after, no one went near the old forest road. But the tale of Chief Obololu and Okochukwu lived on, told by firesides and under moonlight. Mothers would lean close to their children and whisper, "Greed will call you into the forest, and the forest will not let you go." And when the harmattan winds blew, carrying a low, strange hum through Okoto, the elders would sit quietly, listening. For some swore the river still carried the voices of men who wanted too much, their laughter turning slowly into cries.